Welcome to day 2 of the 2023 New England Food Show. How's everybody doing? Thank you. We have our first keynote of today on Monday, day 2. You know, more than ever, restaurant owners have to think about the client, the culture, the investing in their employees that they have today, because we're competing with everybody. We're competing with technology. We're competing with Amazon. We're competing with everyone out there for employees to fill our workforce. And time again, the biggest issue we hear at the Mass Restaurant Association is numbers are great, sales are great, can't find employees. And more importantly, I can't find managers. And most of our managers in the restaurant industry start as hourly employees. So it's all about investing in them and giving them a path to success. And we thought it was really important to bring an HR consultant and expert to the show today to be on center stage, because more and more restaurants need this type of information. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Renee Guilbault. She's the author of A Taste of Opportunity, an insider's guide to boosting your career, making your mark, and changing the food industry from within. Please give a hearty round of applause to today's speaker, Renee Guilbault.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Good morning, everybody. Almost good afternoon. I know it's almost lunchtime. I'm a little hungry myself, so I think we should probably get right to it. But I would also like to say it is cold in here. So if I'm a little shaky, I just want to put my parka on. But anyway, let's just get started. So you may have noticed that I just put this amazing want ad on screen right now, and I'd like to give you a couple of seconds to take a look at it, and then just let me know how many of you would sign up for this job today. Just take a few minutes or a few seconds and let me know what you think. Can I see like a show of hands? Who's ready for this? Okay, so not too many of you. So, okay, Carrie's ready for this. All right, this is great. So obviously we need to talk about this, right? Because a lot of our jobs are actually this in practice. And what's the effect on our industry right now? Because even if we're not posting this want ad, it's the reputation this industry has and the reasons that people cite for why they leave it. So why does the reputation of our industry even matter? Because it directly impacts workforce retention, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So why does retention matter? Well, I asked ChatGPT because it knows everything, and here's what it said. It didn't actually give a non-exhaustive list, but it's helpful to see it all in one place. And well, yes, these are no-brainers. It does, make an impact to see it here. So let's unpack a couple of them. Increased recruitment costs. We all know this. But it's also increased our labor costs, because every time we bring in somebody new, it's edging our budgets further and further in the wrong direction, right? Reduced productivity. We all know this, but it's also reduced brand experience, right? Because we don't have people who are really institutionally ready to deliver the experience that we've tried so hard to create. Decreased employee morale. We should talk about this one because last year in some sectors of our industry, hourly employees turned over almost 2 times. And managers weren't much better, right? With the majority not even making it a year in their role. So it kind of begs the question, who's even left to show anybody how it's done? Or, more importantly, who can hold the culture that team members need to stay, right? Would you stay at a company if it's just a kind of a bloodbath of people ghosting and quitting, and where the few who remain have the responsibility for getting it all done, despite the lack of support and resources, and despite the feelings of despair that come with, the stress of high turnover? So I think it's fair to say that retention is crucial to the success of any organization, right? It's just one of those things that is the case. And when people feel undervalued and unappreciated, they're more likely to leave, to quit, and to share negative stories about their experiences. And that in turn creates a negative reputation, which then drives away potential new hires. So this isn't a new story for our industry. We've been plagued with high turnover for decades. right? And I'm just curious, when you guys decided to work in food, how many of the people in your life thought that was an amazing career path? I mean, were people just like high-fiving you and saying, yes, go work in a restaurant because that is awesome and you are gonna continue to build your career? Or were they more like concerned and like, when are you gonna get a real job? You know, it has like a very mixed bag response. I know some of the people in my life were just brutal about when I decided to become a chef. And it made it all the harder to kind of stay the course while also trying to navigate the reaction of some of the people in my life, and also because of how I was treated while I was trying to learn. And today, we all know this, workers have more options than ever before. They have more flexibility, they have competitive pay rates, and so we're not the only gig in town, right? Look at this headline that has Amazon freaking out right now. Right? It just goes to show you that without a committed and motivated workforce, you will struggle to achieve organizational goals and maintain a positive reputation. So I think it's fair to say that because of like the really questionable reputation of our industry, there isn't exactly a pool of motivated and excited people just salivating to jump into hourly jobs, right? Fire and knives and cranky people. Right? But I want to fix this, and I think you do too. So after almost 30 years in this industry, and as somebody who started out as a high school dropout, I have had the opportunity many times to be in hourly roles. Okay, and I have seen and experienced kind of the dark side of our industry, what it felt like to be, treated like a pair of hands and not an actual human with feelings, to be unseen, and sometimes to be disrespected. I mean, I even remember one time when I was a commie chef in a restaurant kitchen, we had this gorgeous salad on the menu, and it was a crab salad with this Marie Rose dressing. I don't know if you know this dressing. It's like a tomato-based creamy dressing with a hint of brandy. Oh my God, it is so good. And this salad had all the bells and whistles, like avocado, tomatoes, cucumber. It was beautiful, but it was missing something, I thought, like a perfectly crisp slice of pancetta. That would have made it like next level, right? Because, bacon, right? So I played around with it. I showed it to Chef when I was ready, and he was not thrilled, actually. Like, who was I to mess with his recipe without permission? And let's just say I never really spoke up in that kitchen again. I also didn't stay very long in that kitchen. I think that it's important to think about career pathing as all of the opportunities in hourly roles that we never actually consciously discuss, right? In our industry, we have one of the most magnificent and unique opportunity paths in the world. There is no industry like ours where you can come into leadership or come into industry and work your way from hourly roles into leadership, right? I did it. I went from hourly roles and I worked my way into some of the most, visible brands in the world. And what I learned, right, I stayed in the industry. And I wanted to figure out, like, how do we make it easier for other people to stay too? Because what I did end up learning on the job would have been reason enough to stay if others heard it earlier in their employment, right? Things like the importance of relationships, right? How you could be the best at something tactically. Like if you're a chef and you can chop 10 onions in under a minute into perfectly brunoise dice without crying. But, if you're an a-hole, then you're probably not going to keep moving forward in your career, or at least you're going to stop, and that's the square, by the way, that's the a-hole. So, I kept thinking, why didn't anyone tell me this? Like that one job would lead closer to the next job and the next job, and ultimately you get to your dream job, right? Like a trail of breadcrumbs. You learn skills, you gain experience, you build relationships, and one job gets you closer to the next. If you demonstrate some pretty basic qualities, right? Qualities like keeping your agreements and being a team player, and that demonstrating those skills would unlock bigger jobs and better jobs, and that those are the skills that we learn in hourly jobs. It would have made it so much easier to stay in those harder moments, And I believe that it would make it easier for other people to stay as well, because those are the reasons that people stay in jobs. So McKinsey did a massive study on this last year, and if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's really interesting. They basically asked employees, what do you want from your employee experience? And then they asked employers, what do you think your employees want? Well, let's just say it wasn't necessarily aligned, but these are the top 5 wants of employees. And you'll notice that number 1 is not compensation. It's job growth, opportunities for advancement. And what's also interesting about this is that these are the key elements to retention. Why? Because they create agency and opportunity. Agency, the feeling of being in control, like I can affect a certain outcome in my own life. And opportunity, I can go somewhere. There's something waiting for me. There's next, right? But we know that our teams can't feel agency and opportunity when they see their colleagues constantly leaving, and when their bosses and managers don't have time for their development, leaving their experience inconsistent and unpredictable, and that the stress that comes with the demand of high performance without a stabilized support leaves them feeling burnout and despair and hopeless, and it drives a need for something different. So how do we turn the lights on, right? How do we show people what's possible for them and what they can achieve, right? Well, one of the most common and logical interventions is training, right? We can just get people trained the right way from the start, then maybe they would stay and grow in their roles. I know in my own life, if I had known that skills were less important in terms of career doors than relationships, or if I had known that my ability to problem solve or take responsibility were measurements of my management capabilities, if I had been trained on why those mattered to me, it would have made it easier to stay in the harder moments. And in fact, 75% of workers say they could have been retained through better programs. But would it shock you to know that 96% of today's training experiences have no measurable outcome on learning, knowledge, or behaviors of employees? 96%. And virtual trainings are not much more effective either, right? And these are not the trainings that employers force you to take. These are ones folks sign up for on their own and that they're likely paying for, a lot of money. And so if we look at this course completion rate and we agree 50% or less is probably a fail, it's really not effective. And yes, course completion rates on their own are an imperfect metric, right? Because I can learn something even if I don't finish the thing, but I can also learn absolutely nothing if I do finish the thing. But even as an imperfect metric, it tells a really powerful story. Okay, course completion rates are the leading indicator in the quality of the design of an experience. Okay, let's think about it for a second. If an experience is designed in such a way that brings me value, I'm going to stay and persist, right? Same for you. If you're into it, you're going to stay, right? So what is the best way to use training to improve retention? This is a question that I have been personally obsessed with for years. I even wrote a whole book related to this, which I will tell you about later on. But it is a really deep question, right? Why are we in a worse place now than ever before? Why is it broken? So let's start with the question, what do we train people on? Does anybody want to weigh in? What are the kinds of things we train people on? Carrie? Skills. Let's just call it tactical skills. How to make a coffee, how to set up for service, how to plug in their sales numbers when they join, the office in the morning. Tactical stuff. But we don't tell them why their work matters for them, right? I mean, that's kind of a big, important thing. As employers, we are much more focused on what we are trying to get across than what our employees need to learn joyfully and to feel connected. So if we're looking at what's the best way to train to improve retention, isn't it fair to say that there's this whole other side that's missing from our training? Like, what would happen if we trained people on the skills that would carry them from hourly into management? What would happen if we focused on interpersonal skills like how to collaborate, how to negotiate, how to give and receive feedback, how to put the team first? It's important to think about it because people will stay where their wants and needs are met best, right? Wouldn't you agree? Haven't you all stayed longest in a role that was serving you somehow? Like your job right now. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Nobody's job is perfect, but you stay because it's serving you somehow. It's the same for every human everywhere, and it's the same for your team. So it has to be about what they care about, their goals, their career, their opportunities, right? That's really, really important. When we only train on what the company needs, the organization, the tactical skills, what do we get? We get apathy, right? Nobody really cares. Remember this statistic, this horrifying statistic? They really don't care. They may know enough to perform their duties every day, right? To kind of execute their responsibilities, but they won't feel connected to their employer. They won't feel a sense of purpose, and they won't understand why any short-term pain is worth the long-term gain, and so they bounce, because it's just not worth it. What made staying worth it to you? Just curious. So even if we design the training in a way that the subject matter is something that they care about, there's still another problem. And that is that the training has to be aligned with how humans learn. And there's been a ton of research about this, and the science is clear. Humans learn by doing. That's how we take a concept, we put it into practice, and then mastery, right? That's not what a lot of our training looks like right now. A lot of it is very much information delivery and short-term recall, PowerPoint over practice. So why do we think our team members will learn if we just tell them what to do, but we don't show them? Let me give you an example. Can I become a master pastry chef if I just read every baking recipe book I can find? Can I become an effective team leader if I watch all the best leadership videos, right? And even read all the best leadership books, but I've never led a team? I think you see what I mean. We learn by doing. So why do we learn by doing? Because active engagement helps to integrate new knowledge. Experience cements understanding. So in order to motivate and inspire our workforce, we have to train differently, okay? So a lot of our training has been around for a really long time now, and it's been refined as well as it can be. We've even added all of these components where we feel like we get a lot of data because of the consistency in the delivery of the message, right? The same teams at the same time along their career journey get the same trainings, same experiences, same tests. There's a lot of reasons why that feels good, right? We made our teams watch these videos. We even put these things in, they can't like all the way to the end and like bypass it. You know, they have to watch it and they get tested, and we sneak in these questions. We know they watched it. Okay, cool. But can you prove that they cared about what they learned? You know, I would argue that today's retention rates prove just how much they care. So, you know, there have been so much advancements in other fields, including the science of learning, that our industry just hasn't caught up to yet. But it's time. And now I know you might be thinking, okay, hold on a second. This is completely not what we have in place right now. And I get it. You know, the last thing that you want to hear is that the things that you're spending so much time and resources on aren't working. But if you really want to improve retention, and if you, like me, respond best when something is designed around what you care about, and if you, like me, learn best by doing, and if you, like me, think, okay, that is not what this stuff is, then maybe you're open to a different way of doing it, right? What would happen if we just started over? Like if we just threw it all out and said, okay, we need to look at this all over again. Like how would we build it? What would we do? Well, that is something that my team and I have been building. And I would like to show it to you, right? Because I would be a total hypocrite if I was just standing up here telling you all the stuff and not showing you. So let's just do it really quickly. One of the trainings that we offer leaders is a training that's rooted in what they care about. And it's also around a question that we're here today to talk about, how to improve retention. The goal of the training is to get these leaders to understand that they themselves are the key to unlocking retention. And then the most powerful thing that they can do is to show, share, and shape for their teams. What that means is to take their broader perspectives and help their team members see the bigger picture. But instead of just telling them that, because that's like blah, 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 right? I show them these videos.
Remember two leaders that took me to visit restaurants on a Sunday afternoon, our head of HR for the region, and one of the multi-unit leaders for a neighboring region who happened to be female, said, let's go visit some restaurants together so that you can get exposure outside of your market. And I remember sitting at a restaurant in South Shore and talking about my interest level in being a multi-unit leader. And at the time, I'm a single unit operator and a mom. So I'm just trying to put life together. And they're like, have you considered it? I was like, my multi-unit leader looks miserable. I am not interested in being that stressed out. And so they started to talk about the dynamics of how different leaders may show up, but also what are the perks to leading at that level. And I eventually said, it's worth a shot. And I had to go to Atlanta, interview with a panel. And when I came back, as they gave me the feedback, someone said to me, you can be a brand president one day. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just applying for this training job right now. I don't even know if I'm gonna make it, out of this transitional role. Like if I make it there, I'll be happy, right? That'll be good enough. I'll get a company car, like that would be success. And so I'll never forget that conversation because it planted a seed that I came back to later as I started to think about my own career path. But if you would have asked me that, it would have been nowhere on my radar.
When I started out, I didn't have that imagination, and to be honest, I got more inspired as I spent more time in the workplace observing different folks, and I also have contacts with friends who weren't in law, and you sort of start exploring the world. My first management job, someone very senior in the leadership team and the legal department, we had been working together and pulled me aside and he said, I'm watching you because I think you'll go far. And I said, yeah, haha. And I honestly didn't believe I would go as far. And to this day, I check in frequently with him. And all he tells me is, I told you so.
A month after getting married, I actually packed up the car and literally drove south to start interviewing at different hotels. No idea what life would be like over there. And there was one HR manager, Mary Marderell, at the Westin Peachtree Plaza, who ultimately believed in me, who believed that I would do well for her, and she gave me that chance. If it wasn't for her, I'm not sure if I would ultimately have started with Westin and enjoyed 17 great years with them.
I actually had a professor that I bumped into in the hallway one day, where are you going? And I was, going to the library, who knows? He said, I'm going to the Taco Bell career fair. You should come with me. And I was like, there's no career at Taco Bell. And he said, no, I think you're really gonna like it. They're doing all this stuff that nobody else is doing. And I was still like, I ain't going to work for Taco Bell. And this professor, Chris Muller was his name, he took me by the hand and he literally marched me to the Taco Bell career session, and he sat with me, and my mind was totally opened up to this whole other part of the industry that could be done in a different way than I ever imagined. And I actually went to go work for the company.
Right? So great, right? And then after we show these videos, there we go. After we show these videos, we tie in the two principles of the training, right? Because it's not just enough to show that. We want to talk about what did those videos bring up for those leaders? Like, I wonder, what did they bring up for you? So the first principle of the training is that people cannot understand the extent of their capabilities if they can't understand the expanse of them. If they can see and believe what's possible for them, it's a game changer. And the second principle is that nobody has a broader perspective than yours as a leader. And your team needs you to share their story because they just don't even know what's possible, but you do. You as a leader also have the most power to affect change. Even if you may not think that you do, you actually really do. And all of that leads to an interactive session, which is what I want to do with all of you right now. Why? Because active engagement helps to integrate new knowledge. So just for a couple of minutes, I jumped a slide, sorry. We're going to do show, share, and shape. You all have a card you can take home and put in your wallet to remind you of what this is. But basically, you've seen the videos and you've seen how sharing your perspective can change career paths. So what you do is you show your teams by exposing them to different ideas and thinking by sharing your stories and experiences, including when you may have had a life-changing interaction with somebody else. And by showing and sharing, you will shape the future you most want to see, right? You will create opportunities for people to find meaning, to reframe, to problem solve. And most importantly, you will create opportunities for people to stay. Okay, so let's just do this right now. Turn to your left or your right, grab a buddy. Even if you don't know them, don't be awkward. You know, we can all figure this out. And let's just share a story from one of those experiences. I think we all have those stories. And let's just kind of share it with each other for just like a minute or two. Okay? Great. Yeah? Sorry?
How many more slides do you have left?
All right, folks, just last minute, and then we're going to come back. All right. So good, right? I can't wait to hear some of your stories. I hope you'll come and talk to me and my team afterward and share some of these moments, because these moments are my jam, right? So this training works because it focuses on what the audience cares about. And it's designed in such a way that the leaders actually do the thing the training's about, right? So now I want to talk about how can we actively design this into our daily interactions, because that's the thing. We can do that. We don't have to leave these moments to chance. We can design this into the training of our organizations, right? And the best thing about it, it's free. You can start right now, and you can see the impacts it can have on your team right now, right? So let's just take a couple minutes to think about how could you design this into your daily interactions, whether it's committing to 5 minutes a week with a junior member of your team and telling stories and discovering interests, or something deeper and more systemic. It's all possible, and it's all available, and it is really free, right? It just takes time and commitment. So let's just talk about it for maybe 2-3 minutes, and then we'll come back again. Okay? Oh my God, I'm so cold. I need like a blanket or something. Now I'm gonna get my. Okay for time though? Okay. Okay. All right, everybody, last minute, and then we're just gonna get back into it. No, it's okay, I didn't want to interrupt you. Keep going. 50 seconds. All right, folks, I think it's time. I'm sure you're starving. And I'm going to go find my parka after this. It's so cold over here. But let's look at where we started, right? It's always helpful to go back to the beginning. I think that we can agree now that if we want to solve retention, that we have to look at how we're onboarding and training people in the first place. We know that if it's not focused on them and what they care about and how they learn, that we're probably setting up their departure on day one. The good news is that if we can start to make small changes now, we have a real opportunity to improve retention, not only for the people on our teams and help them have thriving and amazing careers across our industry or across our organizations, but the knock-on effect for our industry will be phenomenal, right? Because we are the industry of opportunity. We are the industry where anybody can achieve anything if they want to. And that is what we should be known for. So instead of hearing that want ad over and over again, what if we heard something like this?
The way I define success has changed over the years. When I was younger, I would say success was much more about my personal accomplishments. When would I get my next bigger, better, broader role? Nowadays, it's much more about the success of the team. Are they becoming successful, and how do you see their growth evolving? I am who I am today because of individuals who, without anything for them to gain personally, had believed in me. And I think those individuals who are willing to use their personal credibility, who are willing to take risk to give you a chance, I want to be like them because what others have given to me. And I think so many others can do the same.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I hope you get a chance to come up and, we have some books up here. I'm happy to send you home with some and just share some stories with us. We would love to connect.
Oh, Renee, we're not letting you off the hook that easy. No way, you're sneaking out of here. So,
Okay.
if there's one thing that you need to know in the restaurant industry right now, if you're not solving your retention and attracting the ability to attract, retain, and hold on and grow and develop talent, you're going to go the way of the dinosaur. There's no silver bullet, and the things that she's talking about right now about building a culture are imperative for you to be successful and survive. So that said, I'm going to put it up for questions. Are there any questions for Renee out there about this topic? Oh, I can't believe there aren't any questions. You are such a good facilitator that you filled their head with knowledge and they don't have any questions.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank
Come
you.
on over and
Thank
say
you, Renee.
hi. Would love that. Thank you.
So if you want, she's got some books, and we'll put them over here on the side. She'll be sitting on the side here for a little bit. Feel very comfortable coming up, and we'll get some books out here for you guys to take a look at. All right?